Well, hi again.
Hey, Jeanette, how are you?
Good.
Two in a row.
I know. I should have just come down there.
All right, so far I've got Jeanette, Johnny, and Rusty. Still waiting on Kristen and Clay. Or actually, Jeanette, are you chair on this?
I may be chair on this.
I think you are.
Okay. I thought I was chairing the last one, but then Mal showed up.
Well, I'm not sure. I'm not sure Clay's going to join us tonight. We'll give him a couple minutes. Hello, Doug.
Do we have enough people for a quorum?
We have three. Wait a minute, Doug, you're muted. I'm going to unmute you.
Yeah.
We were the five-person board.
Yes.
We need three.
Okay, we
Yeah,
got
we need a third.
No, we've
Well,
got
me and Rusty. Who else is on? Oh, is
Johnny Phipps.
John unmute, and Johnny needs to show us his video person. Come on, back.
Who's this, Johnny Phipps?
Yes.
Old BGA Wildcats using up that shy now. That's not good.
Johnny, you on? I mean, I know you're on. And turn off your mic.
You're unmuted. Johnny, you're muted.
Yeah, I'm here. Got a bad connection, but I'm here.
Okay.
So are we ready?
We'll give it one more minute.
Okay.
This is the first time I've met with it. This is the first time this board has met since I've been city attorney. 3 years.
Has it been?
Yeah.
We used to meet all the time.
Oh, you've been on it before? I didn't know that.
Well, I didn't know I was still on it till I got the email.
We almost met the very first month. I convinced Lyle we didn't need to.
We're very efficient.
Exactly.
Yeah. John, we got everything done the first year and we didn't have to meet again.
Well,
Clay was a good chairman.
Yeah, Clay was chairman.
I believe this is the first time that I have asked the BBCA to meet in almost 7 years.
It can't be 7 years. Was I on it? Or that was codes I was on?
Yeah. Now, this is the first time I've asked the BBCA to assemble.
I got you.
Okay, someone just joined with the last four numbers, 05. Could you identify yourself, please? Phone number, last four numbers, 0538. Could you identify yourself, please? It is Clay? Okay.
Yes.
Clay, are you there? I just
Yes.
muted. Okay.
Yes, somebody just unmuted me. So I'll keep myself muted.
All right, well, you're the chair, so we have a quorum if you all want to get started, or we can wait another minute on Kristen Taylor. She said she was going to join. It's up to you.
Well, is the applicant present?
Good question.
James, you there? I see you're on here. I'm going to unmute you. Well, James, you've got control. Can you unmute yourself just to answer? There you go.
There we go.
James, can you hear us?
All right, do you want me to start?
James, can you hear us? James, if you can hear me, please respond. Well, we can go ahead. I can present for them if y'all want to get started.
That'd be
Okay.
good.
I'm happy to if Clay is not there. Is that right?
No,
Clay's
he's
here.
Yeah.
And fine to move forward.
Go ahead, Jeanette.
Okay, so this is a scheduled meeting on Tuesday, June 9th of the Belmead Board of the Building Code Appeals. It has been quite some time since we've met. So the members that are present, can you please go around and state your names? It's Jeanette Whitson.
Rusty Moore.
Johnny Phipps.
Clay Bright.
We also have Doug Barry in attendance and Jim Hunt. This is being conducted through a Zoom meeting due to COVID-19 regulations. First, we would have normally the approval of minutes and old business, but seeing as how we have not met in quite some time, we have no minutes to approve. We have no old business to approve. So new business. Lyle, could you present the applicants?
Sure. The application of James Bass, 4412 Georgian Place, for a variance permitting the construction of a home not within the first floor elevation requirement of being in a floodplain. The building permit has been denied for the following reason. Owner is requesting that the first floor be 2 feet lower than the city's municipal floodplain ordinance requirement of 3 feet over base flood elevation plus 1 foot requirement for FEMA. So before they speak, I would like to give a little background on this. I'm going to share the screen with you here. So what you're looking at is a section from the municipal floodplain zoning ordinance. This is page 61. This is the requirements for residential structures, and you see that I've highlighted it there. In AE zones, which is what primarily Belmead is, where the base flood elevation data is available, which it is, new construction as substantial improvements or like an addition of any residential building shall have the lowest floor, including the basement if it's a living area, elevated to no lower than 4 feet above base flood elevation. So what this means is FEMA sends out these maps, and on the maps is the base flood elevation. It's marked topographically. I'm just going to pick a number. Let's just say that a lot is 500 on the map. That's the elevation, base flood elevation. FEMA says you must build the home 1 foot above that. So that would be 501. Belmead, with its ordinance several years ago, decided to tack on another 3 feet. So now we have a total of 4 feet. And what we're proposing, and I might mention that at the last commissioners meeting, I went to them with this and they approved it on first reading. Second reading will be the 17th of this month. What we're proposing is to lower the requirement of Belmead's 3 feet to only 1 foot. So it'd be FEMA 1 foot, Belmead 1 foot, a total of 2 feet. This, I'm going to show you, is the reason why we're doing this. This
Yes.
home on Forsyth that had to meet the 4 foot elevation. This is actually closer to 4.5 feet. You can see that how much the elevation of the floor is out of the ground. The home is somewhat imposing on the street. The street is relatively level. The appellant is before us today, Georgian Place. The street is even more level. I'm afraid that if you were to build a home under the guides of FEMA and Belle Meade's requirements of 4 feet, it would really project out of the ground. This next picture is the home next door to the right of that home, and you'll notice that it is not in the floodplain, and that floor elevation is on grade. So you can see the difference. We're talking maybe 6 inches, 8 inches above grade. The home is very much in keeping with the topography of the lot, as opposed to this one. Now, to be fair to this builder, they had to build it like this. So again, I'm proposing that we lower this to 1 foot to meet the federal guidelines of FEMA, and Belle Meade tack on another 1 foot. Now today, being the BBCA, you have the authority to rule on that. There's the power. That's why the BBCA is hearing this. In this case, Bass wants to get this approved by the board before we go to the commissioners on the 17th. I think he may have someone interested in the property. I don't know. He or his representative can speak to that. So I'm going to turn it over to them if they want to unmute themselves to make comments. Anybody wish to speak to this? Mr. Bass, Mr. Young, anyone? Mr. Young, if you want to speak, your mic is muted. If you want to unmute that, if you wish to speak.
It's at the top of your screen. There's a microphone at the top of your screen.
Maybe mine's at the bottom of my screen. So it may be in a different spot on people's different layouts.
Well, while they're trying to figure that out, perhaps I'm going to show you the FEMA map for this property. If you'll notice where I'm going to put this arrow, that's the property in question right there.
Right.
It's a very,
Well,
very lot.
Lyle, let me just ask a couple of points of fact. So our ruling today only applies to this particular property, although on the 18th, as a matter of procedure, this issue is going to be decided for all of Belle Meade properties that fall within the floodplain. Is that correct?
That is correct. The only advantage is going to be insurance-wise. If someone wants to build their home up 3 feet, 4 feet, 5 feet, they have that right to do that.
Absolutely. And this property does have an existing home on it.
Correct.
I'm not sure when it was built, but this has not gone before the Historic Commission for demolition, correct?
Correct.
So when we say that potentially something could be done 2 feet under, that's not in any way giving authority to actually build a home or circumvent the demolition procedure, correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
Today is specifically about 4412 Georgian Place. Now, hopefully next week, as you mentioned on the 17th, the commissioners will pass it on second reading, and that will be across the board for Belle Meade.
Right. But the owners of this property will still need to go before the Historic Commission for a demolition permit and approval of whatever plan, but the code will be different so that they won't have to raise the house up so much. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay.
So, let me speak also to possible ramifications of lowering this. There really aren't any. I mean, we're meeting federal guidelines, plus we're adding another foot. This in no way impairs an impact study. An impact study is when you build a home on the property, of a different footprint. In other words, when the FEMA map came out, they took into consideration the footprint of this house. If this house were to be torn down or an addition put on it and a new house built, whatever, you would have to comply with the base flood elevation. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. If you were to dig out for a new house, you would have to add dirt somewhere else or take dirt away. It's a 1-to-1 ratio. So there'll be an impact study done on this property, any property that's built in the floodplain or the floodway. So there's no ramifications as far as that goes. This is merely, in my opinion, street aesthetics, if you will.
I'm happy to see it. I'm happy that we're not going to have houses that sit so far above the elevation and grade. I would be in favor of it. That's just my 2 cents, since we get to vote before the board does next week.
Well, this is Rusty Moore. Of course, my 2 cents is that I think one of the worst things we can do in any community is build these houses too high up off the ground. I think they look terrible. They don't fall into the streetscape in an effective way. And particularly Georgian Place, where the homes tend to be on that lower level. In fact, most of the homes, I think, are 1 story. And so not only am I supportive of this move for this Georgian Place home, I am supportive of the change in Belmead, which I'll be voting for next week. So whenever you're ready, I'll be happy to make a motion.
This is Johnny.
Wow. Oh, go
Wow,
ahead,
this
Johnny.
is Johnny. Why are we even voting if they could wait 9 days and the other committee just makes our vote a moot point, does it not?
It does.
What's the point of us meeting other than save them
I
9
don't
days?
know, and I wish that someone representing would unmute and make a comment to that. They're aware that this is passed last month, and they're aware that it's going to go to second reading on the 17th. So there must be another urgency that I'm not aware of.
Well,
The house is for sale.
We
Well, I
also
gotta-
don't know what the vote will be next week either.
Right,
So
exactly.
if the city commissioners do not approve it, then they will have to come back to us. And so I understand that, and I think 9 days is a very short amount of time, but I see no reason not to move forward with this.
Okay, I've got a question for Doug. Doug, what are we charged with? Meeting the law or?
Well, you got to apply the law as it currently is. So we might want to scroll back, Lyle, to the ordinance and see. You ought to be able to state some reason specific to this site, as if there were no ordinance change pending. Find some reason within the existing ordinance to say, yeah, because of this, we're going to grant this variance. And let's see, Lyle, what looks good here.
Well, this is the powers of the board and the.
Yeah, let's scroll down. It's interesting. This was enacted before we had historic zoning, but it references. It's got some useful language in it. I think you could almost claim that that the special condition is that it's a. Is it historic?
It
I don't
was
know.
built in I think mid-60s.
That's not
Look,
going.
and scroll down to the rest of subsection 3, Lyle. Forgive me, I didn't have that up hard copy.
Well, there's nothing to scroll on here. This is something.
That's it. Okay.
But I can pull that up.
I apologize. I should have done that before the meeting. I think the whole notion of a variance is to find something particular to that piece of property that creates a hardship for the owner, and you say, because of this, we're going to grant you relief from the ordinance. And
One thing it would be an anomaly on the streetscape because
I think that may be a good reason, Rusty. Let's see what else we got here. I don't mean to sound flippant about it, but think of something.
I agree.
Some factual basis that makes this lot or building or situation unique and creates a hardship for this owner, and that'll be your reason.
I've spoken to Steve Casey, our city engineer, who helped put all these ordinances together, and these kind of appeals and variances definitely come to the BBCA for this kind of latitude.
Right. Let's see here. Hold on a second, Lyle.
Number 3.
Keep on going.
Is there more below
Let me
that?
get you to do something.
That's kind of
Won't
the
be much
opposite.
longer. I hope.
And those are kind of contrary to the. I mean, I think under the circumstances that you just, Rusty's reason that he offered, well, let that be the reason. It's aesthetically unpleasing, and it's in out of harmony with the streetscape of the street.
That's exactly what I'm
I'm not saying
saying.
make something up, but just put something in there where you have a factual basis for it, and then the law is going to change anyway, at least based on the reception on first reading.
I'll try a motion, but only when you guys are ready after discussion.
Only when I stop talking.
Well, so is it a majority vote? Just,
Yes, simple majority time.
okay, all right.
Hey, Lyle, can I ask a question?
Please.
Can you hear me? Hey,
Yes.
so I'm on board with what everybody's saying. I don't like the house on Forsyth either, but why did they come up with the 1+3? Was there a reasoning behind that?
It's before my time, and I talked to Steve
Wow.
about it, and he said that he couldn't recall, and he's been
Yeah.
leave with us since 2004, I believe.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
I've been to these classes, being the floodplain administrator, and you know, of course, you got to meet federal guidelines of 1 foot, and anything above that is a plus as far as insurance goes. So, like I said, if somebody wants to build their house up, you know, another foot or 2 or whatever, that's going to help reduce the cost of insurance, and that's totally up to them. We're just saying, you know, the minimum is 1 foot FEMA, 1 foot Belmead. It's totally up to you if you want to build it up further. But I think everybody agrees, streetscape wise, it looks much more pleasing to be 2 feet out of the ground as opposed to 4.
And I think
Yeah.
we're actually, we can cite that we have seen section 5 and that the variance, you know, would not increase any flood levels during base flood discharge. So
That's right.
we've looked at it. We've come up with our own criteria, which I think is within the subjective nature of our review, to say it does not comply with the streetscape of houses, and in particular historic houses along that street, of which I do believe there are a few. And the variance does not create any increase in flood levels during the base flood discharge. So,
I like it. I like it.
you know, like that.
I do.
I think we're ready for you, Rusty.
Okay, so I will move that we approve the application of the estate of James Bass at 4412 Georgian Place for the reasons that if a home is constructed based on the guidelines, it would be out of harmony with the streetscape in the neighborhood, and that our action does not increase potential flooding in the area.
I would second that motion.
Could we do a roll call?
All in favor?
Jeanette, aye.
Rusty Moore, yes.
What?
Johnny?
Ray Bright, yes.
Johnny, yes.
Okay.
So we have a motion to any new business before this committee? Anyone have any comments before I do a motion to adjourn? None being, I will move to adjourn the meeting of the Board of Building Code Appeals.
I'll second.
It was
Approved.
Approved.
Thank you all.
Thank
you.
y'all.
All right, goodbye.
See ya.